Hi, everybody. Welcome to this evening's online get together where we'll be talking about Reiki stories, how Reiki changes people's lives. And certainly, I know Reiki changed my life completely. And what you will hear, no doubt, from our presenters this evening is how it's changed things for them as well. We've got three fantastic guests. Before I introduce them, uh, we will you can see the outline for the evening there. We will have a short meditation and then we'll get straight into the presentations with our guests. After that, you'll have the opportunity for live Q&A. And we'll have a few closing remarks and a reminder about what's upcoming. So, without further ado, thank you, Slavica. We have a beautiful image if you want to soft focus on an image while you meditate, or if you'd prefer, you can close your eyes, whatever's comfortable for you. I like to actually be doing Reiki on myself when I'm meditating. You might want to do the same thing. Again, it's entirely up to you. So just take a few deep, easy breaths in and out at a pace that's comfortable for you. In and out. You might like to hold on to the in breath, so bring it in and hold and out. And in and hold and out. So bring yourself right into your own space. Feel the breath as it flows in. Imagine the Reiki energy flowing in as you breathe in. And perhaps any negative or distressing experiences over these past few days. You can imagine them being released on the out breath. Now to relax yourself. It can be a good opportunity to take a mental stock take of the temple your spirit lives in, your body. How do your toes feel? Balls of your feet, the arches, the insteps, the heels. The feet are a part of your body that works so hard for you every day. And your ankles. Your ankles give you flexibility in your maneuvering, in your changing direction. How do they feel? So on the out breath, perhaps think of relaxing your ankles and your feet. Bring your awareness to your calves, your lower legs. Think about those muscles becoming heavy but relaxed. And your knees. The knees that give you the capacity to crouch down low, to stretch up tall. Now your thighs, your quadriceps and your hamstrings, right into your hips. Our legs are what connect us through our feet to the earth. When was the last time you walked barefoot on a sandy beach or across cool grass? Bring your awareness into your belly, your abdomen. A lot of us carry emotional tightness here. Perhaps you can relax on the out breath. And then the upper torso. Is there some tightness in our chests? Is there some emotion of anger or grief or impatience that we're not letting go of? Sometimes we hold ourselves tight in the chest and restrict our breathing. So take a nice, deep, slow breath in. And slowly release. How are your fingers and hands today? Just like your feet, they work hard every day. Allow them to relax and feel calm. Bring your awareness into your forearms. If we do a lot of keyboard work or mouse work, maybe our forearms get a little tired and our wrists get a little tight. What if we relax all of that on the out breath? Now upper arms into our shoulders. Are your shoulders tense? Are they up around your ears? What about allowing them to just rest naturally in a low, comfortable position on your next out breath? Now your neck. Perhaps there's some tension held there. And our heads, our faces. How often do we choose to relax all those facial muscles? There's a lot of tension for many of us when we hold our expressions in, when we don't express ourselves, when we're choosing to present a mask because the time to express ourselves may not feel appropriate. How about you relax that area too? Sit with the awareness of your body. Allow yourself to feel calmness. Bring the awareness back forward to where you are comfortable enough to open your eyes, and we will commence our presentations. Thank you, Slavica. Okay, so we have three really lovely guests tonight. We have Sarah Najjar, Shadi Kennedy, and Diana Fells. And I think they've all been on at different times previously. So there'll be familiar faces to some of you and maybe not to others. But perhaps we can start with Sarah. So Sarah's been doing Reiki for quite a long time and has been teaching traditional Sui Reiki since 2009. And she's got a good awareness of some other uh, therapies, complementary therapies, and has a traditional BA in anthropology and sociology. So that gives her that nice juxtaposition between what some people would think of as being a bit woo-woo and out there and what other people would think of as being traditional academia. So that's a nice way to have a bit of balance for us to listen to when we hear Sarah speak. Sarah's done a lot of keynote speaking at various events and has taught at a couple of Melbourne's health colleges, the Australian College of Fitness and Bodywork and the Victorian Fitness Academy. And She offers a lot of things, which you can see on the slide that's available right now: individual treatments, Reiki training and mentoring, practice groups, and some e-courses to help people in their Reiki practice. So, Sarah, looking forward to hearing from you tonight about how things were for you and the changes Reiki has brought for you and maybe for some of the people you've worked with. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Sue. And thank you for the beautiful meditation that you just led us in. So I thought that I'd start sharing about how Reiki changed my life. And then I thought I'd talk about how it's also helped someone else that has been receiving Reiki treatment since 2017. So in 2002, I learned Reiki with little or no knowledge of the practice. And when I learned Reiki, I fell in love with Reiki, as I'm sure many of you have as well. And I really wondered how such a gentle and non-invasive practice could create such powerful changes. And for me, when I first learnt Reiki, I would say that Reiki introduced me to a vibrational universe that I hadn't really had a lot of experience with before. And it introduced me to a different way of relating to myself and others. And over time, I've realized that that's really, I mean, Reiki does many things, but one thing that it can do is it can connect us more to this vibrational universe, as well as connecting us more deeply with this present moment reality that we're in. And I don't speak a lot about my experiences with this vibrational universe because I realized that a lot of people can benefit from Reiki practice and learn Reiki and don't have any of these experiences, but Reiki is still really working for them in a very special and profound way. The other thing is that I feel that when I learned Reiki and when other people learn Reiki, those kind of peak spiritual experiences can't be sustained forever. And it's a little bit like a rewarding or a long-term relationship. So at the start of a relationship, we can have that kind of incredible sort of falling in love experience. And then over time, with practice, a romantic relationship can be a little bit like a self-Reiki practice, where it becomes more grounding and enduring and balanced, and just as rewarding, but in a different way. So over time, self-Reiki practice has helped me to become more connected to this present moment reality. And I think that's due to the balancing effect that it has on our central nervous system. And because of that balancing, harmonious effect that it has on our central nervous system, it can help us with a whole range of different experiences and conditions that we encounter along our life path. So I just thought I'd briefly talk, and it's helped me with so many different things. I mean, I could talk for ages, for a whole hour, as I'm sure you could as well, about the incredible effects that self-Reiki practice has, and also receiving Reiki treatment has. But I won't do that because that would be unfair. And instead, I just briefly talk about two experiences that it's helped me with. So one is that I used to experience period pain, and my period pain used to come about 3 days before I got my period, often in the middle of the night. And then after I learnt Reiki, and I used to sometimes have to take Nurofen or Panadol once on the first day of my period. But when I learnt Reiki, I thought, okay, fantastic. When I woke up with that pain or discomfort in the middle of the night, I used to place my hands on my abdomen and my period pain used to diminish. And I imagine that Reiki has helped other people with that same condition, not condition, but same experience. And the other thing that it really helped me with was in my mid-30s, I had an challenging life experience. And self Reiki practice helped me to experience more gratitude with that experience. And then over time, it also helped me to understand about why I was experiencing it and also gain more acceptance around the fact that I was experiencing it. I think now I'll talk. I'm not sure how much time I've got left, but hopefully I've got a few minutes to talk about how Reiki has helped others. So I've been privileged to have helped many hundreds of people since 2008 in a professional capacity with Reiki. And one person I'd like to talk about is a person who came to first receive Reiki in 2017, and her name is Pam. And she was diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder, and she had chosen not to take any medication for that. And that was under the guidance of her primary healthcare providers. And she came for a Reiki treatment because she was needing or recognized that she needed extra self-care, and also because she was somewhat dysregulated mentally and emotionally. So after her first treatment, she felt more grounded and calm, and she had had an interest in spiritual practices. So she thought she'd come and learn Reiki. And since then, she has completed Reiki level 1, 2, and 3A. And I could see that after she completed Reiki level 1 and she had connected with her own self Reiki practice, she was clearer and calmer and happier. All in all, she would say that self Reiki practice and receiving Reiki treatment and Reiki practice in general has helped her to become more spiritually connected and has helped her to experience more gratitude, higher energy levels, and helped her to manage musculoskeletal conditions, gynecological conditions, as well as with other her gynecological conditions were also managed through Western medicine as well, and less stress and anxiety and more compassion for herself and others. And one of the things I'd like to end on is that when people come and learn Reiki, I talk about how we have different ways of practicing Reiki. We have our own self Reiki practice, and we also have the Reiki principles that are another way of practicing Reiki each day, which I imagine that we're practicing. And what I love that she says is that the Reiki principles are a key conceptual framework that promote more respect toward others, as well as a healthy sense of self. So that's what I'd really love to end on, is just that idea of hers, which I think is very beautiful. And I'm really glad that she loves self Reiki as well, and receiving Reiki treatment, because she still comes for Reiki treatments.
That's really lovely, Sarah. That's a really lovely sharing of someone's journey. And it's beautiful when we practice for ourselves and we understand the benefit for ourselves, but when other people who we've had the real privilege of teaching Reiki to also come to that same place where they suddenly realize that self-practice is really a way of showing self-compassion and discovering themselves and their spiritual and emotional aspects in a way that allopathic medicine can't really help them do. So that was lovely. Thank you so much. I really resonate with that that story, both your experience and hers. So I appreciate that. So Shadi, over to you. Shadi's been on a spiritual journey for more than 30 years, I would say, from the looks of it. And she's got a really interesting understanding of energy, being part of her, manifesting her reality in a way that some of us don't really find out about until we, explore something. But you had a real curiosity to go looking for it, Shadi. And Reiki was just one of the things that you experienced, from what I understand. So that's really interesting. And you left corporate IT, which I can relate to because I was in that field as well. You're a mother of 3 boys. We all know how much energy that takes, of a different kind. And it's really interesting. You've done the hard graft reality stuff, the business, the family, the corporate world, and yet you still had this other journey that you were going on, your spiritual journey. So you're now a master teacher and practitioner, and we would love to hear from you, please, your story on Reiki, how it changed you, and perhaps some of your people that you've worked with as well. That would be lovely to hear. Thanks, Shadi.
Thank you, Sue. So I had a longer journey into getting to Reiki. So I did start my journey a very long time ago because I was constantly curious that there had to be something more than what we were experiencing. But I really went down the energetic line. So I was, interested in understanding how energy worked. I started studying different religions first in my early 20s while I was doing my corporate work. And over time, I just went through wanting to understand the energy of our bodies, right down to a cellular level. So I loved the science behind it all. Looked for Reiki, but we moved around a lot for my husband's work. And eventually when we moved back to Sydney, we were going through a very, very difficult time in our lives. It was, very dark. There was a lot of stuff going on. And that is when Reiki ended up knocking on my door. Through a whole bunch of synchronicities, honestly, I ended up in a Reiki class. And for no reason other than I was like, okay, let's see what this is all about. Pure curiosity. And I honestly, after Reiki level 1, I kind of walked around thinking, I'm not even sure if any of this is real. And I really had to test it. I'm one of those people that my logic gets in the way a lot of the times, and it had to prove itself to me. So it worked very hard in showing me how it comes as part of my life. So I did my level 1 and level 2 through absolute chaos of our lives. And I have to say it saved me. So, there were times where I really did not know how to get out of the darkness in what was going on in our lives, how I could help my family. And as a mother, you kind of feel responsible for being able to rescue some of your kids when they're going through a hard time, and I couldn't. But Reiki was there. So Reiki helped me so much because I was able to pull myself away from the situation. And by giving myself Reiki, I could show up again without the fear, just with a bit more trust, with a bit more light. I would be able to give Reiki to my family. And when I couldn't, I would distance Reiki, everything. So I'm not saying that it was a smooth journey by any means. And Reiki wasn't a magic wand. It didn't all of a sudden get rid of all my problems or everything we were going through. But it definitely brought more light. It definitely made me feel empowered, that I felt like I had an extra support network, an extra, support system that I could lean on, that I could feel that strength back up again. And then funny enough, it opened new doors. It brought people into my life that changed things. And now I can look back on that time and go, oh my God, I get why we had to go through that. I get why there was so much darkness and it was really hit or miss. But through that, we wouldn't have done all this other stuff we did. I wouldn't be teaching this at all now if I didn't go through all of that experience. So one thing I've learned, and I've seen it with a lot of my clients, I have a lot of clients that have depression and anxiety. And that when they first come to you, they are like this. They're hunched, they're dark, they're heavy, they're weighted. And through Reiki, I see the light that comes back on. It's gentle, it's subtle. It's not like they walk out of one session and all of a sudden it's all gone. But it's this slow shift where they then start to find themselves again and find out how they can connect back to themselves again. And they find that confidence to get up and, get themselves a cup of a cup of coffee in the morning and have a shower and then make those steps to finding their way back to themselves. And when they do that, when Reiki helps them do that, they get the confidence back again. So what I've seen with some of my clients is when they can remember how they did that, they build the confidence. So when they do fall over again, they know they can get back up. They know they can call upon Reiki. And a lot of my clients who were really heavily in that space have become my students. So their self-Reiki practice that they do has enabled them to have some power and back into their own well-being. So that's been really a big aha for me watching. Honestly, I honestly believe my students and the clients are my biggest teachers of how they're able to bring that Reiki energy into their lives. I have one client who has a terminal illness, and he came and saw me, and he didn't know anything about Reiki, but he had heard that maybe it could help support him in what he was going through. So 2 years down the track, he's still having Reiki sessions, and he's now a student. So he's been doing his Reiki self-practice. And I actually asked him the question. I said, would you mind sharing how Reiki has changed your life? You're still showing up every week having sessions. And he said he has been able to see that what he's going through doesn't end here. So his soul, his spirit is so much bigger than the experience of his terminal illness. So he's found this acceptance with it. He's found this peace with it. It's not to say that every now and then the fear doesn't come in about how the ending is going to look for him, but he's just knows, and with no concern that there is something so much bigger than where he's at right now. And he's felt it in his Reiki sessions. It's a really deep feeling for him. So he's able to hold that space. And when he says he's held that space in his home, it helps with his partner and his children, because he's walking with that sense of we're going to be okay no matter what. And I know that there's something bigger than where I am right now. And I'm okay with this. I'm okay with how we're going with all of this. So that's really big for his experience and his journey, and watching him go through that has been huge for me as well. For my own learning as well, as I've gone to become to teach Reiki, I've realized that the way I was connecting to the spiritual side was very separate. It was like I was doing two separate things. I would do my meditations, and I would be like, great, I'm in this Reiki zone, I'm in my meditation state. And I could feel that quiet and connection with my soul, with my higher self, the guidance. And then I would go be mom, work, rushing around this physical human body. But somehow the mesh between the two wasn't as connected. So as I've started doing my Reiki journey, when I've started really getting involved more into that space, I found that I'm able to live a more spiritually led human experience. So I'm not just stepping aside and sitting in my meditation and doing Reiki. I'm now trying to work out, well, how do I want to show up? How would Reiki show up? How does love show up? So in every situation, I can bring that energy in with me. And it's changed completely how I show up for myself and for my family and the trajectory of my life. And that leads me to something actually that Sarah was talking about, which is the Reiki precepts and the principles, which brings you to the present moment. And that is the foundations of a lot of my Reiki practice. And what I keep telling a lot of my clients that leave the room, it's okay to come here and you have a great Reiki session, and then you walk out and you do the same habits and the same worries and the same things over and over again, and nothing's shifting. But when we can remind ourselves of those Reiki principles and precepts, we're bringing in that light, even if it's just for this moment, just for this minute, just for this next 5 minutes, and then we extend it. So that has helped my spiritual practice, because I could bring it to now, and I can honor that space in the just for today and just for this moment, being present. one of my Reiki students was happy to share her story. She's did her level 3 with me. And she says that when she was doing her 21-day clearing process, her intention was, please take away from me anything that does not serve my evolution as a soul in this life. She said she felt like she had this big awakening and understood why Reiki was brought into her life. So she had quite a difficult, emotionally traumatic relationship with her father. And it brought all the issues to surface. And she said once she could see it clearly, once she could understand what was happening, that's when her healing journey began. And she's so forever grateful for being able to have Reiki as part of that, to help her with this healing journey. It's just been an absolute honor to watch how Reiki shows up. And yep, I'm still asking it to show me, and I'm still testing it. And it's just been amazing. So I'm thankful to be here tonight and share this with you guys. And thank you for allowing me this time.
Thank you, Shadi. That was really lovely. Another story from someone you've been working with that I think a lot of us can resonate with. And your personal journey, the way you didn't give up, the way your curiosity kept you going, and now you are in this space where you're sharing what benefited you so much through a really dark period, but also when things are good, where you can still support yourself and the people around you. My teacher always used to say that when we have Reiki, we never have to feel helpless about anything. There is always something we can do, even if the only thing we can do is Reiki. And that's a pretty amazing thing. Thank you so much for sharing. Appreciated that enormously. So now we move on to Diana. So Diana Fells, she's been doing Reiki for, hey, you're 21 now, Diana. 21 years young in Reiki. And you were overseas when you had your first exposure, synchronicities, etc., to get you there in terms of pursuing Reiki and what you've done. And interesting that you've done a number of different forms of teaching with multiple teachers. I'm completely different. I'm straight down a single line. I admire other teachers and I love to interact with them, but I just stuck with where I am, and you've been pursuing other things, which is really, really interesting. I love that you want to do your own personal practices as well as bringing other people in and offering them support on all their different levels of their wellbeing journey as well, which is amazing. And there's quite a lot of stuff that you've got down there in terms of your Reiki offerings, but also counselling, the eye movement desensitization reprocessing, which I've heard a little bit about, coaching, spiritual healing, and your business management and accounting. So there we go. We have another one where we've got the academia side as well as the more spiritual side. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about how Reiki changed your life for you, and maybe about some of your students or a client. That would be lovely. Thanks, Diana.
Thanks. Yeah, so over the last 20 years, what I've directly witnessed myself, it astounds me how much Reiki has and can change people's lives, and for the better. Reiki knows no boundaries. It's unlimited to what it can help with, from any age, right through pregnancy to newborns, young to the elderly, for everyone, people, animals, plants, and so much more. Reiki improves the mind, body, and the energy. It has a way of helping with the mental, emotional, the physical health conditions, and your spiritual growth. Reiki goes way, way, way beyond healing the body, and its benefits ripple out to your environment and daily life. From my experience, it is common for clients after a Reiki session to say they feel lighter, the body feels lighter, their face looks brighter, and you even see the rosiness in their cheeks. A person going through cancer have said they felt like they were laying on soft clouds and there was no table underneath of them and no pain in the body. And they felt so good, and they can't remember the last time they felt so good. And that same person could barely walk down the path to my place and needed assistance the whole way. But yet before I even had a chance to go help them, they've already flipped themselves on the table. And it's like, so somewhere out of nowhere, they had this burst of energy and then got themselves on the table, but yet they couldn't walk down the path. And to me, when I look at things like that, that clearly shows how much they're getting out of the Reiki. And it's that saying, a picture paints 1,000 words. Like, you just can't, you just know how much they're getting out of it because they could barely walk. Physically, people look taller, they stand up looking straight, they look brighter, and they even stop shaking. So I've had a person who had Parkinson's, and even after one healing session, they got off the table and they looked really puzzled at me, and they said, "Am I standing up straight, aren't I? Have I stopped shaking?" And I'm looking at them going, "Yes, you have." And what is funny, you know, because people, when they get off the table, they look so much taller and bigger, and I'm very short myself. So I'm looking up like there's like these giants, like it's all of a sudden they've grown and I'm shrunken down. So it makes me look even shorter. But yeah, they just look better and brighter and taller. And others have said that their hearing has come back, or it's become better or sharpened. So a person had tinnitus, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, which is the ringing in the ears. I had no idea that this person had tinnitus, and I'd never even heard of the word. And I said, "What is it?" And they said it's ringing in the ears, and it's common. A lot of people have it, and they've had it for 30 years, and they learnt to ignore it because they were told it could never, ever get better. But it did, and we were both blown away that Reiki had helped that. Others say they feel calm, the mind is empty, the fogginess and the heaviness in the head is gone, and the busyness in the head just stops, and they just sort of get grounded again. And prior to them arriving, their mind was scattered, it's circling around with negative thoughts, they're highly stressed, and now it's gone. There is a bewilderness and excitement at the same time, and you can see it in their face, and their face just lights up. And they have words that said, you know, saying, I've never felt so good in my life. I now feel good about my future. Even last week, someone said to me, "I can't explain it, but my head is clear. It's empty. It's still. I feel stillness. I've never felt stillness before, and it feels so good." Those with clinical mental health conditions will say the chatter in the head has reduced or stopped, and they're feeling calm, grounded and centered and focused again. And it's provided them relief so much that they can start moving forward again and be able to do something for the day where prior they could not. So, and I've also too witnessed that not only has it done that, but the language changes. So they might come in and it's very negative talk, but it just softens down and it starts becoming more rational and more clearer. So the energy is just, you see it shifting. Those with chronic pain have said the pain has gone or reduced. And the same with chronic fatigue. They feel the energy again, and it speeds up the recovery process. People who become in just for general wellness or a reset, stress, anxiety, depression, or just bad juju or something, I've all said it's helped them with those presenting issues. But interesting, something else more occurs beyond the body. It's like a miracle. It has brought in change that has helped them in their jobs, career, kids, relationships, home, finance, or something that just wasn't right. What astounds me is we've never spoken about it. I didn't know anything about it, but somehow the Reiki energy did what it needed to do. It found the missing link and reconnected them. For me, one example I'll share how it's helped me was with a major surgery, and it helped speed up the process of the recovery. So I had 2 significant surgeries where I was fully cut open, and I mean fully cut open, and 800 stitches. So it's pretty intensive. One of those surgeries, I had to have drains in afterwards for 2 days, 10 days, I should say. So 2 drains in to drain all the blood and everything for 10 days so you don't get a hematoma. The surgeon was very, very adamant because I asked him a million times and he said, no, 10 days, 10 days, 10 days before it would be taken out. The first surgery took 7 days before the drains could come out. So I booked a hotel across from the road from the hospital. So because I thought if there's any problems, I can just wheel myself back across to emergency, because I live in Canberra and I'm getting this done in Sydney in the hospitals. And after 24 hours of having surgery, the nurse came in and she was trying to take the drains out, and I was having a freak out and go, no, you can't take them out. You can't take them out. They're going to stay in 10 days, because it was drummed in me. If they get taken out too soon, then you can end up with some pretty serious health conditions, further surgery and hematoma. So it's not a good thing to take it out and if it's not ready. So I insisted that the surgeon checked it before she touched it. And he came and he said, no, they can come out. So what would normally take 10 days to heal and repair before drains can even come out, before the next set of healing happens, it happened in less than a day, which is a huge difference to my recovery, because it meant I could actually sleep without all these drains everywhere, start moving again, and I could repair much sooner. A week later, I was running a workshop, and at one point the subject came out about surgery, and I said, well, I just came out of surgery about a week ago, and I was talking to these ladies, and these ladies knew exactly that type of surgery and what I had and entailed, and they looked at me going, that takes a full month or more before you can actually start standing. And I was really shocked, because you can't usually stand, you're usually crunched over, and you can't even usually move, let alone, and they were so shocked. They're going, well, but you're standing straight, you're functioning the way you are in 1 week. They just couldn't believe it. But Reiki definitely helps a lot pre and post surgery healing, and helps the body recover, and obviously in quantum leaps. Even after 20 years, Reiki still amazes me, and it surprises me how it works, what it does, and the way it helps people in their lives. Reiki knows no boundaries. It is limitless. There's nothing it can't do. I'm still continually blown away. I've seen things that I could not explain, and far more than I could expect, imagine, or hope for. Reiki is a beautiful energy, very nurturing and soothing, and worth giving a go. And thanks for listening to me.
Wow, Diana. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's quite impressive. Takata there were a lot of stories about Takata and people that she worked with who were seriously ill, and they're much faster recovery times that surprised the doctors. I had a C-section, supposed emergency because of a breech birth. I was out of the hospital in less than 24 hours. The doctors were astonished. And I didn't, you know how they plug you into those IV painkiller things? I didn't use it. I just used Reiki. So that was much to the surprise of the nurses. So I'm really hearing you about your story. It's lovely to hear. And thank you so much for sharing all those different comments about the limitlessness and the boundlessness of it, and the way that sometimes the outcomes are not what we hope for or expect, but they're beneficial and they surprise us. Yes, I agree. I still get surprised by Reiki as well, and I've been doing it for a long time now, like some of the others here as well. So thank you so much, Diana, and thank you as well, Sarah and Shadi. I've really appreciated listening to you, what you've been willing to. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question, if I can ask Diana. When you had that surgery, you practiced Reiki obviously on yourself, and you possibly got Reiki from others. How? I'm just thinking, this is for me personally. Like, I practice Reiki now since 2018, and I'm trying to see how Reiki will stop me from having a surgery. You know what I mean? I have good health, and I'm just thinking, where did you, like, when you had that major surgery, I'm just trying to see, like, I don't even know how to formulate a question. Can we prevent disease by Reiki? Or like major things happening in our life? Or is it just Reiki is there to support us no matter what goes on? Because sometimes we can't stop what's happening even though we practice Reiki. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a great
Yeah.
question because there's many little elements in there because, yeah, so I think it's a bit of everything there. Can it prevent you getting something? Absolutely. But it's tricky to put the evidence, because I'm an evidence person, to it, because we didn't know we're going to have it. Tricky there. But it can do that because it can, like, it's just like you escaped the bullet, you know, dodged a bullet basically. And sometimes it's that awareness, because I think the awareness comes in and I'm noticing things now, and I'm like, instead of like heading towards that, I'm kind of go, oh, let's go this way. So I think it does show me awareness to kind of dodge those bullets a bit more. Then there's an element that it speeds things up. So with that drain situation, I wasn't sitting in hospital doing hands-on. There's no way. I came out of that surgery and I didn't sleep all night, like at all night. And most of that night, I was being checked on every hour because my blood pressure was that low that they were ready to just about every minute wheel me down to the surgery, because I've had his 2 surgeries of his. And usually we always have low blood pressure, but mine gets really low. And they were like, I had like 12 liters of water I just had to constantly drink, because, you know, it was either that or they're wheeling me down to emergency from one end of the hospital to the other. So I do have to stay in. So there's no way I was putting hands on. So the healing happened way, way before then, where I was constantly practicing every day. And it wasn't always about putting a hands on me. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it was chanting or meditating. So I was actively doing something every day, even if it was for a few minutes. Sometimes you might sit down for half an hour, other times it's just a few minutes, other times it's, you know, not so great, but in the gym, but you'd be doing the stairs and you're, okay, I can chant while I'm doing the stairs. So, you know, you're actively doing chanting, meditating or healing or something all the way leading up. So that period when I'm like, I'm out of it. And it's not like I can call someone, because I'm, you know, 4 hours like south away from there, and nor do, you know, Reiki friends around at that time, and not necessarily publicizing that as well. But yeah, because that lead up and then afterwards you're doing something was inside and was helping whatever it is to heal faster. And then other times there's things in my life just going, really, did that have to happen? Couldn't I learn that in a book? But sometimes there was lessons that maybe I had to learn in other aspects going, I really didn't need that. And that's where I get conundrum, because I go in the line of spirituality. You know, you think it's always going to be rainbows and unicorns and fairies, but the spiritual side can be all wonderful and all great and lifted, but your world and your dual world can be going down the crapper. So it's like one's up and one's down. It's like, how do I get balance here that I can just, oh, I've tried to flatline it, just have that smoothness.
Yeah, that's how I sort of see it. Once you practice Reiki or any kind of spiritual practice, it gives you that grace where you gracefully walking through no matter what is presented to you, and it's just beautiful. Thank you.
Nice.
Does anyone have any other question? Katja?
Go, Katya.
Hello. I don't actually have a question, but I wanted to add a little bit. I was inspired by your story, Diana, because it reminded me of something that happened to my sister where she'd had major surgery. So there's just a tiny thing about that I wanted to share, seeing as it's on topic about how Reiki makes a difference. So what had happened for her after her surgery, and hers was quite major, really major surgery. She didn't actually use Reiki so much she didn't use Reiki in the lead up or through her healing process. But there was a point where along her stitches, there was some point where the skin wasn't healing. It was just like a little opening. It was healing open, and they couldn't work out how to make it stay shut. It was really weird. Like didn't even imagine that could happen. And she was constantly going into hospital, and they were doing this treatment on her, and they were putting silver on it. Apparently they use silver. I don't know how that works, but anyway, it's this thing they do now. And it just wasn't, like, whatever they tried, whatever little trick they could pull out of their sleeve, they couldn't make it work. And it was ongoing for weeks. And finally she asked me, can I have a Reiki? So we did. And during the Reiki, this little part on her abdomen. She said that it felt like it popped, and she said it was almost like I could hear this pop and felt like something really changed. And within a couple of days, the little hole had disappeared. So I don't know. I just think it's a really lovely anecdote. Can't explain it. You know, who can explain how Reiki works? No one really. But I just wanted to share that as a compliment to your story.
Thanks, Cardia. That was really lovely.
Yeah.
And I don't have a scar from my C-section, but I'm not showing you that.
You don't have a scar.
I don't have a scar.
Oh, congratulations. Gosh.
And no scar tissue internally either.
That's
so
amazing.
It was preventing me from having children. The scar tissue originally from cervical cancer. And after I'd done Reiki, and I was just doing Reiki every day, very obedient student. My teacher had said, you know, you benefit most if you do self-practice, and you're very doubtful, and those who are the biggest skeptics attract the biggest proofs. So when I went in for my checkup, my doctor said, oh my God, Sue, what have you been doing? And I thought, because he's, you know, looking, I thought maybe the cervical cancer had returned or there was something else wrong. I didn't feel like it. You know, when I was Reikiing myself in that lower abdomen area, I didn't feel like there was anything wrong. And he said, if I didn't know about your history, I would swear that was a completely normal cervix. So if you want to go and have children, you'd better do it now because you're getting too old. And my husband had never wanted children, so I went home to him and I said, you know how you didn't want children and I couldn't have them? Yes, well, we have a choice now. And I had my first son, which was the unexpected breech at 40. No scar tissue from the C-section. And I popped the second one out like a bar of soap. Natural birth, no painkillers, no nothing, just my Reiki hands. So I always feel that I've been so totally blessed by Reiki, and it resonates with me, my teacher saying the biggest skeptics are often the ones who attract the biggest proofs. So, yeah.
I love that quote. Do you, Shady and Sarah, have any such stories? Like, we all love to hear like incredible stories. You know, everything else happens, but those incredible ones are just interesting.
I can share just a recent dental experience that I've had. So I needed some fillings done, and I am a bit sensitive to the anesthetic, especially if it contains adrenaline. And so I said to the dentist, who's known me over a period of time, I prefer not to have the anesthetic. And she said, are you sure? I said, yes, I'm sure. I'll just lie here and do Reiki. And during it, she said, she stopped and she said, are you sure you don't want some anesthetic? Because it's a lot deeper than what I thought it was. And I was like, no, I don't want the anesthetic. And she couldn't believe it. I actually had 2 done, which were on the lower. And then the top one, I actually said to her, Martha's have an anesthetic, because I just felt like that was a little bit perhaps more tender. And she was so impressed by it all that she contacted her son, who's an integrative doctor, and told him about Reiki. Yeah.
That's
That's
incredible.
I just lay there and did Reiki. So I would never advocate that we don't need anesthetic. Absolutely. And I would never say, rather when you go to the dentist, just do your self-Reiki practice and don't get anesthetic. But for me personally, that worked. In those 2 cases.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah. I think the trick was that I knew that it was ending, and I knew exactly why the pain was there. That was part of it as well. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Shady?
Well, I don't have any physical issues that I've actually had to work on, thank God, yet. But for my clients, I've seen a lot of amazing things. I've had clients that have had vertigo. The doctors have said there's nothing they could do. and we've had 2 sessions, and they've been able to drop into their body, and the vertigo is gone. The ears, being able to chronic earaches, that's gone. I've had people that have come back from skiing accidents that their doctors have said it's going to take 6 weeks to heal, and amazingly they can put their foot down really nicely, which I told them not to push it, after about the 2nd treatment. So those sorts of things I've seen a lot of, and I'm constantly the skeptic. So I'm constantly going, oh, is there something else in Helen's? And I keep checking in with them to make sure. Probably the one biggest story was a beautiful client of mine who had a very traumatic experience when she was a young girl. And she came and saw me, and I can share this because she's written it up as a review on my public site. And she said to me, you know, I haven't had a menstrual cycle in a really long time. I had a lot of trauma, whatever. So I said, okay. So we worked on the Reiki, and then after her 2nd session, she came and said to me, I've got my periods. And I was like, oh my God. So she was so happy because whatever was stuck from way back there was able to shift. And then she was really stressed about that. So she was able to get that back. And honestly, I don't know. I'm always like, you know, sometimes it happens, but I've also had clients where they haven't received the physical stuff like they wanted to in the same way or as quickly, but they've received a lot more of the hard work, you know, the spiritual, the stuff that they've had to shift, those habits. So, and I say to them, if you had the magic wand straight up, you wouldn't have done the hard work. So now they've had to do all the hard work, and they're looking at it from a different perspective. So I have to trust. I don't know. That's all we can do.
Sometimes what shifts for a person when they receive Reiki isn't necessarily what they came to the session for or what they hoped for. So I had a client, and she's happy for me to share this story. She had breast cancer, which was successfully treated and she'd recovered from, but it had metastasized into about 7 tumors in the liver. And she came and did Reiki 1, not with me, but with my teacher, and I was assisting at the time. And she had chemo the day before the class started, and they were expecting that this would result in gradual shrinkage of the tumors. It was quite a targeted chemo, but it was going to be a gradual thing. You know, often with chemo, they'll do 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off, or 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off. I think hers was 3 on, 3 off. But she started self-treating every day after doing Reiki 1. And what was astonishing was when she came to the review that we held 4 weeks later, and of course, a few of us had been doing absent healing as well, she said the doctors were blown away because of the 7 tumors, 4 of them had completely disappeared, including the biggest one. And the 3 that remained were so small. Now, they anticipated shrinkage, but they didn't anticipate it after 1 round of chemo, and nor did they expect that more than half the tumors would disappear.
Incredible.
So the human body will do what it knows what to do, and it knows how to heal. But Reiki is one of those amazing resources that lets it do its job much better, because we often run ourselves down, you know, we don't have the reserves. So what surprised her, though, was that when she was coming to me for treatments, so this was prior to the chemo, what responded initially, even though the area over her liver drew a lot through my hands, she had a low-grade gum infection. That disappeared. And then the body could work on the rest. It was like this low-grade gum infection that had been there for years was stopping the body from dealing with the other issue. It was very interesting. So, yeah, always of benefit, but not always in the way people hope for or expect. Ladies, all 3 of you who were presenting, thank you so much. It was really lovely to hear your experiences and to garner different perspectives on how Reiki has the potential to change lives, whether it was your own or some of the people that you've been working with. Slavica, thank you for doing everything that you do on the technical side of things. And thank you also to everybody else who came along today and participated. It's really appreciated. So next time, thanks, in September, we're doing a session on Reiki as spiritual support during a time of transition. So in other words, the issue around death and dying, so the approaching death and the moment of transition itself. So that could be very tough for a lot of people, but I also think it will be hugely enlightening and rewarding. So I hope that you'll attend next time. Thank you, everybody, again. I really appreciate Sarah, Shadi, and Diana's contributions, and to all of you for showing up, and Slavica as well. Thank you, everybody, and good night.